Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Williamson, EVP of Product. We're going to talk about Q2 product OKRs. There's an advanced presentation link there. There's a YouTube link if you want more context on the OKRs. And happy to take Q&A at this point.
Hey Scott, how should I have known that there was a video link? Was it here, or was there another venue to figure that out?
I don't know. Christy, I think, tagged you and Stella in the OKR channel. I published on Monday, and then the link was in here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. Christy, for me, a request to, if you would be so kind to send me an appointment the day before at 6 o'clock to watch it, because this morning I watched really silly YouTube videos of people putting extensions on trucks and then wrecking a cornfield with it. And I could have just watched this instead. It'd be as entertaining and a lot more value add.
Absolutely, yeah. And I have my one-on-one with Eric today where we're going to talk about that for the key meeting videos for you anyway. So I'll just group that together.
Awesome. Hey, Scott, if we have time, I know a spicy subject to talk about, but depends if Kenny is in the meeting.
Oh yeah, I don't think he is. We did set up a call Monday with Kenny to talk about that.
I'll save it. I'll save it for then probably.
Yeah, we can decide then whether to keep that one or remove it.
And people might be wondering what I'm talking about. I'm asking to ship the homepage. So we have a couple of categories in the homepage where it's like, someday we'll ship this, but they're no longer a priority. So I'm challenging the team to do something really minimal when an engineer works on it for 1 or 2 weeks, and we just ship something out there so we can gather feedback. And then Kenny rightly mentions, hey, shouldn't we be focusing on the stuff that's actually getting used? So we're gonna make a trade-off between those two things. This is a public live stream, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna get in trouble with the YouTube channels I'm watching. I say they're silly. But, I think the big pricing change I'm trying to pursue is make sure that we kind of limit the consumption, because we're spending a whole ton of money for GitLab.com, and it's we're very happy with people using it in a moderate way. But if people consume a ton of consumption, it would be great if they pay for that, because we cannot afford to keep subsidizing that. So we're gonna put a dollar amount on it. You get a dollar or something like that a month for free if you're not paying us, and then we build a consumption against that.
Yeah, and we have a call tomorrow to talk about the nuances of that and the way we iterate our way there. That's under 152.
Can I ask a question about increased stages per active namespace for namespaces less than 90 days old to more than 1.7? That's a great goal. Like, there's 2 numbers in there. That's always great. And it has a direction, like needs to be more than. That's also great. I wonder how the 1.7 got determined.
The current baseline is 1.5, and so that felt like a material move up from there. The 1.5 is pretty anchored because we have so many free customers in there and whatnot. So moving from 1.5 to 1.7, we felt like would be a material move in the quarter, because a quarter is not that much time.
That's cool. I like that it's an absolute goal. I like absolute goals, as in not 20% more, but just say what goal you want to hit. That's great. You can consider next time to also mention what it was, so people get a feel for that. Like, so you could say bigger than 1.7 from 1.5.
I can add that.
And then the challenge is, and I'm not sure, because there's a trade-off, but you could argue that, look, we have since 1 or 2 days, we have like our typical adoption path, and it goes from like version source control to version, from create to verify. Instead of leaving it up in the air how we do this, should we say, hey, we're just gonna get more verify in there? And the disadvantage is, like, you take away the creativity of like, well, maybe there's a great way to get more plan in there, and that way all the different stages can contribute.
I want to make this the big team-wide product thing for this quarter.
Right.
Everybody owns this. This isn't just growth. And Jensen is writing a doc, which we're going back and forth on, which we're going to present in a team call next week, describing the levers underneath span. So getting free to use more, establishing a cross-stage usage. And there's an explanation of, hey, if you're in this situation, this is probably the thing you should try to drive to make it a bit more actionable for each PM, because each PM's in a different spot. Some people are upstream, and maybe linking in downstream would drive cross-stage usage. The reverse is true if you're downstream. And so trying to provide a bit more direction on how to impact this.
Cool, thanks for that.
Yeah.
What does implement North Star metrics mean?
It means make sure the instrumentation is there. We probably have it on 30% of it now. And so these groups need to go do the work to get the instrumentation to collect the data. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah, maybe it's more concrete if you say like, hey, it needs to be shown in a SciSense dashboard or something like that.
Well, that was the second part of it, which is getting the instrumentation's one, and then dashboarding it is the second. We had two different goals.
Okay, so the dashboard, you expect that you get collected data for 100%, but then only 50% will end up in the dashboard. Sorry.
Right. We have a real bottleneck around access to data analysts, and we can't entirely self-serve on the data platform right now. So we don't think we can get all the dashboards built. But I want all the teams to do the work to go get the data. That's in their control.
Cool. This meeting is about goal setting, and it's like implement North Star metrics. What are the North Star metrics? Is it like what's on this sheet, or is it like what's on this sheet?
Yeah, each group has their own sheet for the most part. There may be a couple that have more than one if they have very different things they're trying to drive. And so it's the top level one.
So it's AppDex, or it's what's here?
One. Correct. So on databases, it would be that top one, number of queries a week.
Okay.
We would eventually like to get all the supporting metrics too, but the general goal is to have at least one North Star metric for each group.
Yeah, and this is basically for every group in categories, right?
Correct.
So why don't we, what do you think about adding the North Star metric to the
Yeah, we
different,
talked about adding it to each category direction page.
yeah, or even on this page?
Oh, like a link to the North Star metric definition or something? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or I'd even, like most of them are pretty short. You can even write them out and then link to something with more context. Yesterday, there was talk about like, hey, we have this preferred way of adopting GitLab, which you added, and which will change to like a mermaid graph and everything. And someone said, oh, can we have two versions of this? One internally facing and one externally facing. And I think it's okay to the version we have now, instead of using just the stage name, add some terms after that, say verify CI, say create SCM.
Yeah.
That will make total sense to me. However, I don't understand if we make two versions. First of all, I think it'd be hard to communicate, hard to maintain. And also, this should just be the start of how we, like it's the preferred path. Now we have to add metrics like how successful are we, how many people are converting. And if we have to maintain that in two things, that strikes me as hard. I didn't check since yesterday whether someone responded to it. So I wonder where that is right now.
Yeah, it was an open question. I think I added you in. There was a question from Gila. I think we had added that slide. We'll change it to a mermaid graph. We had involved CS per McBride's request. And their feedback was customers don't always understand our stages. And so that was their initial feedback. Maybe what we could do is stick with stages, try to augment it with industry terms that tie back to the stages and see if that's sufficient. I agree with you that from an internal standpoint, using our own stages is important so that we can overlay data and we can use our own product terminology for it. If at the end of the day, a salesperson is out pitching a new customer and they want to provide some higher level abstracted version of that, I don't have a big problem with that. But I want us to maintain one.
Yeah, and you can name examples. Like the thing is, many of our stages have multiple industry terms in it. There's a reason we don't call it source code management, because there's a web ID in there and a wiki. Like there's more stuff. So we can add those examples. Totally cool with that.
Okay.
So that people understand it better, but it's just not the same. And there's a ton of confusion right now where people start saying, oh, we should do everything by use cases. Look, this is hard enough. Let's get some conversion. We're not even, no one's pushing to get, okay, well, the next step is actually measuring conversion. Like this is the roadmap, like, and let's start measuring it. So I'd love a bit more sense of kind of iteration and urgency, because we've been talking about increasing conversion for a long time. And right now, conversion is a public stream, I realize, but conversion on GitLab.com is going down instead of up. So we gotta move faster instead of creating multiple versions of the same thing. We should make sure that we actually start moving the needle.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we can go with one.
Let's do one. Let's get it done quickly. I don't mind customer success being involved, but they don't need to approve everything. Let's get something there, because we need to get to the next step, actually measuring conversion, because right now we're not. And the first thing to improve something is to start measuring it.
When you say conversion, you mean of additional stages?
Yeah, I kind of want to have an idea, like it's kind of a flow, right? It like waterfalls down.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good grasp on like how are we doing converting people from source code to CI? I know the result, and it seems that both are used extensively. That's what the SMAU dashboard is telling, but I don't have a good idea of the flow through that.
And that's really hard to define with our data set and not being able to track a single user through. So that's part of the challenge, is we have to come at it indirectly because we don't know what one person does in the app. Thus the importance of user level tracking, which we decided not to do. So we can define some of that on .com.
Okay, so I want to correct something. We decided not to use third-party tracking tools, right?
We also decided not to do user level tracking, even with period. We backed away from that.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, we had an explicit discussion at eGroup about that in the middle of the telemetry pushback.
Okay, I'd love to see that again. What exactly we promised, because I can see that we don't do it without opt-in or something like that, but never doing it at all strikes me as super weird.
Yeah. We may still do it with opt-in. So let me correct my statement. We said we would do it with opt-in if we were going to do it at all. We have decided not to push out opt-in user ID because we felt like the SNAL project was more important. We expect that when we do opt-in user ID, maybe we get 2 to 5% to opt in. That may still be worth doing, but it wasn't the highest priority thing for telemetry to work on. So it's something we can still do as an opt-in. We would get a limited amount of data, but we could still see individual users' paths for those that opt in.
Oh,
yeah.
I think that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also promised that it will be first party.
Yeah, we did.
And that can mean we run it ourselves, but it can also mean it's a GitLab feature. So I try to contribute that, but I don't see a lot of action on that from the relevant product manager. So I'd love for product to kind of understand the importance of product analytics as a GitLab feature, and also the importance that it can have for us. And get a bit more.
We have an understanding of that. We have one engineer on telemetry. We're trying to add more people there.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this. And telemetry has a super negative connotation, so you might want to consider not calling it product analytics. Let me see. So I've written product analytics, and I just don't see. I don't see the product manager engaged, and that could be because it's not. It was not on their own. I don't even know who the product manager is. I don't particularly care at this point. It's not about the specific person, but we're going to make sure that when there is something that wasn't on our roadmap, but that might be super valuable, that at least we give feedback.
Can you add the issue link in the doc here?
Yep, for sure. And imagine how cool it would be if we can do the product analytics that we need anyway, and we can also improve GitLab at the same time. Kind of, we'd have the knife would cut at both sides. I think we say in the Netherlands. I'm not sure that makes sense in English. Anyway, two birds with one stone, which is kind of violent. I don't know what expression to use, but it'd be great because we'd be dog fooding.
Okay. I assume it's Sid ready, but
yeah, no, he might not even be aware, but I'd also love for you to say, hey, product analytics would be great to have. And I also think externally it'd be much more defensible to say, hey, we do it with GitLab. I think it'd have a different feel to the community as well.
Okay.
You're not getting a lot of comments on the OKRs from me because they're really, really good. So that's why I'm not saying anything about that.
Well, if there are no more questions, we can wrap this up. Does that work, Scott? Or
Oh yeah, I'm good when the group's good here.
Thanks, Scott. Great work.
All right, thanks y'all. Bye.